What? You want to learn about fractions? I'll show you about fractions. So listen up. We want to know about fractions. Where do we get fractions? What are we talking about when we're looking at fractions? Let me try to make this nice and quick and clear. We're talking about fractions. A very common phrase, we say, hey, I want half of that, right? Or, give me 1/3 altogether. Well, I always like to think about it as look at a candy bar, right? If here we have a candy bar, and I say I want 1/2 of that, what you're going to do is you're going to take that candy bar, and you're going to break it in half. Therefore, 1/2 of that is just going to represent half of the candy bar. Now, what do I mean by 1/2? So I wrote down 1/2. So what I had was one portion of the whole candy bar, which was broken up into two different parts. So it's important for us to understand that when we're talking about fractions, we're talking about a part over a whole. Now, all that number in the whole means is what I'm going to section it off into. So a lot of times we say, what about we talk about 1/3 or 2/3? Well, what that's going to mean is the thirds is going to tell me I'm going to break it up into 3 different sections. Okay? So I still have a whole. All those sections added up together give me my whole, but that's going to tell me how much I'm going to break it up into. Then the number up top is going to tell me how many we're talking about. So if I say 1/3, that represents only one of the sections. If I say 2/3, that represents 2 of the sections. And if I say 3/3, well, that's going to represent the third thing, which represents all of them. So when we're talking about fractions, I want you to always remember it's part over whole. So let's see if we can write up these 3 fractions that I wrote here on the board and see what we come up with. So the first one says 3/5. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to write up my fraction bar, and I'm going to want to break it up into 5 separate sections. So we can say, let's see here. Now, they should be all even sections. I know not everything's going to be perfect, but you can count. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those should be 5 equal sections. They all add up to make my whole. Then I say I only want to talk about 3 of those. So therefore, I'm only going to highlight 3 of those sections. So therefore, when I talk about 3/3, what I'm talking about is something broken up into 5 equal parts and me only taking 3 of those. How about we look at 7/8? Now for 7/8, again, what we have is our whole is broken up into 8 separate sections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this up into 8 even sections. Okay? Now 7/8 tells me I want to talk about all 7 of them, just not the last one, to add up to 8. So I'm going to be dealing with all 7 of there. So 7/8. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of a total of 8 sections. Because remember, 8 sections make my whole, and 7 is part of my whole. Now, here's what we call an improper fraction, because it's not very proper. If you have 9/8. And what we like to look at, sometimes we like to call this, we like to work in a mixed number, but I wanted to give you guys an example, because what if we have 9/8? That's something that's over our whole, right? So if I broke in, right, and if I broke this into 8 different sections, well, remember my chart was how many sections we pick, right? Well, now I'm saying I have 9 sections. Well, there's only 8 of them for us to count. So where are we going to get this last section? Well, we're not going to get it from anywhere. It's not like we can go to the store and buy it. But what we can do is we can represent it as an extra section. So I can say 8 section is going to be 8/8. So 8 whole over 8 whole, right? That's this one. Plus an extra section, which would be 1/8. So a lot of times we can say 9/8 is the same thing as 8/8 plus 1/8. Now remember, any number divided by itself equals 1. So therefore, a lot of you guys, you might see this is what we call a mixed number, and this is what we call a proper fraction. So I want to let you guys understand we can have fractions that have a part greater than the whole. We just need to make sure we represent them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's how you learn fractions. You got me? Good.